Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 109 of our WWE 2022 Save and TEW 2020. This is Raw for March week 2. Only a couple weeks away now from WrestleMania. In game time, that is. It may be a little longer than that before we get there for the actual show. But this is probably one of the more chaotic shows I've put together on Raw. And you guys know that Raw's kind of been the chaotic show of the two between Raw and SmackDown. SmackDown's sort of been contained to the chaos of whatever's happening with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline and everything else. But Raw, there's just been chaos between so many different people, and this show will be no different. So let's jump into it. We start with the pre-show. Ricochet gets the win over Akira Tozawa at 7:03:66 for this match. It was interesting because this is the first time we've actually had this match in our save. And I don't know why. I just thought we would have had this before, I guess, at some point. But they are both baby faces. So, usually I try to err on the side of using the face versus heel dynamic. But boy, as you'll see in this show, a little bit different. I don't always do that. And so we have some baby face versus baby face matches on this show in particular. So, so Ricochet gets the win and, kind of falling off a little bit after their tag team title run there for Ricochet and Jeff as Enigma. So, all right, let's jump in to the main edition. If you remember on SmackDown, we started SmackDown with Michael Cole giving us an update on sort of a disturbing scene backstage after Raw went off the air last week. And we had no idea what he's talking about, but apparently there was a big sort of stir about something that had happened backstage after the show went off the air. What happened? Well, we start the show off, and it only gets to 68, but remember, we got a lot of people involved in these segments. There are multiple segments here that I'm like, I got like 8 people in these, and I don't do that often, but boy, we've got a lot to get to on this one. So, we see video footage from backstage. We kind of come off on the air here, and this is video footage from last week, where all of a sudden, we see Steve Austin, kind of in his office, but then Austin is alerted by Kurt Angle that something has happened backstage. Now, if you remember how we ended last week's show, it was Daniel Bryan getting the win over Christian. Afterwards, Edge came out, speared Daniel Bryan. So Edge and Christian stood over Bryan, Edge holding up the WWE Championship. But on the stage was the Bullet Club, AJ Styles, Adam Cole, Finn Balor, and they were just sort of standing there, looking somewhat pleased with themselves. But they didn't go to the ring to attack Edge or Christian or Bryan. They just stood on the ramp. So the footage shows Austin and Angle now kind of running backstage, and then we just see this scene of Chad Gable, Jason Jordan, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, Cesaro, Sheamus. They've all been taken out. Like, a couple of these guys are busted open. They've all been taken out. Like, what has happened here? And Austin's calling for the officials. He's calling for the medical team. But we got 6 guys down here just in this, this random hallway out in the back. And Austin, immediately starts to get angry because he knows what's going on here. Kurt Angle, is kind of losing it, checking on Gable and Jordan. But we just got pure destruction backstage here with all these guys seemingly haven't been taken out. So we see Austin kind of, just again, kind of pointing different directions, getting everybody where they need to go, getting everybody checked on, all this other stuff. So we come on the air after the video, and it is Steve Austin standing in the middle of the ring, and that is when Austin calls out the Bullet Club, AJ Styles, Adam Cole, Finn Balor. This gets an 83, so good segment, everybody kind of hitting their cues here. And so that does bring out the Bullet Club, and Austin is pissed. He is just railing on these guys, and he tells AJ Styles, one more time. That's all it's going to take is one more time. And he said, Austin's kind of getting revved up. You're starting to think Austin might get physical here. But that's when Styles just, sort of backs up a little bit, and he just says, Steve, calm down. I wouldn't want you to hurt that neck again. And, Styles just kind of a little bit of a threat there, perhaps. But AJ's just saying, I know what you think we did. And that's when Styles just looks at Cole, he looks at Balor, and then he looks back at Austin, and he says, and you're exactly right. We did do what we did last week. And you saw what happens when the Bullet Club sends a message. Just like I said last week, we were going to send a message to all of the people that have tried to wrong us. And, Austin kind of playing up the fact here, and you see Austin kind of respond, and he's like, let me just say this. You may think, you're being sneaky and all this. There's no way that you three guys could have taken out all 6 of those guys backstage last week. And that's kind of, Styles is sort of just giving a little bit of a smile. You can see Cole and Balor kind of hiding their smile a little bit. Austin insinuating that there perhaps was a little help for the Bullet Club. Who else could be involved? We have no idea. But so Austin kind of retorts with that. But Styles just said, Steve, you can ask all the questions you want. You can inquire about this or think you know that. But what you need to know is that we didn't hesitate. We took care of who we needed to take care of. And we're not like Daniel Bryan, who hesitated a couple weeks ago in that championship match against Montez Ford. We don't hesitate when it comes to taking out the people in our way. And he said, Steve, and that's when Styles sort of steps up a little bit, you don't want to be the next one. So we're going to stand in this ring and we're going to get ready for this tag team tournament that we know was already scheduled. Adam Cole and Finn Balor are going to sit here and wait for their opponents. They're going to wait for the Street Profits. And you can do whatever you want to do about that. So Styles just sort of sending a message here. Austin's still pretty pissed off. And that is our setup here for what is the mini tag team tournament that we pushed last week, with 4 teams competing with the winner facing the Lucha Bros at WrestleMania for the tag team championships. Who are the 4 teams? Well, 2 of them, Adam Cole, Finn Balor, the Street Profits. Oh yeah, American Alpha, Jason Jordan, Chad Gable, and Cesaro and Sheamus. So, if you're starting to put it together, perhaps we know one of the reasons why the Bullet Club attacked those 6 last week, and that is our setup to get to this point. Now, we get into the match itself. The Bullet Club have the momentum, and remember, we have these, all these guys minus Balor and Cole are sort of coming into this trying to grit their way through to earn a shot at the tag team championships. But they're baby faces, they're going to try their best, and they're all pissed off because they were all attacked last week. So, Bullet Club getting the momentum here early on the, clearly weakened Ford and Dawkins. So they have all the momentum, but then here comes Chad Gable and Jason Jordan as they walk down the ramp, and they are determined. But they are nothing more than a distraction, because Gable and Jordan walk down the ramp, and what happens on the other side? It is Kurt Angle, who all of a sudden takes aim at Finn Balor. And so Kurt Angle getting physical here as Angle sends a shot at Finn Balor. The referee doesn't see it. That distracts Adam Cole, and that allows Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins to take control. 70 overall for this one. We get a 72 match. And who is advanced? It is the Street Profits, the weakened Street Profits here, who were taken out by these 2 last week. The Street Profits, with a little help from Kurt Angle and American Alpha, they get involved and allow the chance for the Street Profits to advance here. So, that is what happens. Ford pins Adam Cole with the frog splash, and that is how we see it here. So, the Street Profits are going to advance to our main event tonight to take on the winner of the other match between Cesaro and Sheamus and American Alpha. So, they are one step closer to that tag team match, and so the Bullet Club's plan of taking everyone out last week, all the baby faces have sort of banded together here, and at least one team is going to advance with a shocking, perhaps, win over Adam Cole and Finn Balor here in this tag team match. So, the Street Profits advance. I forgot to mention one of the things with the Austin Styles promo exchange. You guys know I get going sometimes, and I forget to mention things. But he did sort of note that Styles was banned from ringside for this match. So that's why you see the baby faces take control of the situation, turn the tables a little bit, and the Profits advance on, and Balor and Cole are pissed. You know who else is pissed? AJ Styles, because we see the video, and it's outside of this hallway. As we've seen sometimes in recent weeks, we don't see AJ Styles, but we hear him, and we hear him yelling in the backstage area. He's clearly just seen what's happened with Cole and Balor losing this match, and so Styles is yelling, but he's not just yelling at himself, right? he's yelling at someone. Like he is sort of sending his anger towards someone and just sort of going off and telling them, this is not what was supposed to happen. This is, once again, everybody's trying to sort of, hold back the Bullet Club, and this is how they treat us, and all of this. So Styles just kind of going off your usual heel stuff here that we've had with the Bullet Club. But it is important to note, like I said, it's not just Styles alone. He is clearly talking to someone and sort of, unleashing his anger with someone else in the room. Who's in there? We don't know. 73 for this one. All right, now, Austin's just had this, chaotic scene. Of course, he's a little happy now, though, and we can see sort of a smirk on Austin's face after seeing the Street Profits advance in this first match. But here comes Austin Theory. We haven't seen Austin Theory in a month. And Theory's just saying, Steve, where's my match? Like, I haven't been on this show. Like, you haven't put me in a match. I have no opponents. Are you just scared that I'm going to go out and do the same thing the Bullet Club's been doing? I'm just going to go out and beat everybody. And that's when Austin brings up, well, the Bullet Club just lost their previous match. And so kind of gets a little comedy jab in there. But Theory just says, I want some respect. I understand why the Bullet Club's upset. They don't get the respect. I want my respect too. And so Austin says, all right, I'll give you a match because there's someone who's been ready to fight, and he wants to unleash some anger tonight. And that's when Austin says, Austin, Austin and Austin here. I keep forgetting. We've got this dynamic. Steve Austin telling Austin Theory, this is like the comedy show here, that he will see his opponent when he gets to the ring. So Theory's heading to the ring, back in action here. So Austin finally giving him a shot at a match. 67 overall. Who's he going to face? Sorry, Theory. It's Big E, because Big E comes out and he just destroys Austin Theory. 5 minutes here. Pretty much a squash match. We get the lack of psychology. We've had that with some of Big E's matches, but it's fine. I mean, this 59. It's not great, but it is what it is. I'm not that worried about it. This was nothing more than sort of a means to an end here. Big E gets a squash on Austin Theory, and that is kind of how we move forward here, because this is more about what happens afterwards. As Pat McAfee hits the ring, and he wants Big E's response here. We've seen the back and forth since No Way Out with what Brock Lesnar did to Kofi Kingston. We saw on SmackDown Xavier Woods sort of taking aim at Brock, and McAfee just wants to know, Big E, what's next? Like, what are you going to do about this? I know you guys are officially set for WrestleMania, Big E versus Brock Lesnar, but he's just like, in the meantime, what are you going to do? And Big E just says, Brock Lesnar doesn't understand. He doesn't realize what he's done. I've tried to stay, the positive Big E, the happy-go-lucky. Like, I've tried all that. Not anymore. He said, at WrestleMania, I'm going to beat Brock Lesnar's ass. And Big E just sort of sending a statement, and he just walks off. Big E's pissed. So that's kind of your setup here. And so he gets a quick squash match. And, yeah, stage is set. Big E, Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania. So there you go, 81 for this one. All right, then we get a segment here as Rey Mysterio, begrudgingly, last week, as we saw, he did hold up Angel Garza's hand after Garza beat Mustafa Ali, after Ali had tried to attack Dominic and Rey the week before. So Garza proving himself here finally to the Mysterios, perhaps, or more importantly to Rey, has been the bigger part. So Rey thanks Garza. He just said, look, I hope you understand, I'm a little protective of my son, and anyone who tries to, get around him and all that. I try to protect Dominic and all of this. And so Rey's really pushing that he's trying to protect his son. And Garza just says, look, I understand, Rey. I've just been trying to tell you from the start, when I came out there and saw Dominic, I saw a little bit of me there in terms of us being the future, perhaps, of Lucha Libre. And, and we understand there are a lot of people out there who would not sort of, try to carry on the legacy of a Rey Mysterio, of Eddie Guerrero, of guys like that. And so Garza's really pushing this idea. And then, Rey sort of appreciates that, and you can see Dom standing there, with Garza. And then that's when Garza tells Rey, I also want to tell you something, because I have talked to Steve Austin, and because we want to continue to carry on that legacy. And I know that's what you want too. There's nothing more than you want to sort of continue to push forward the Lucha Libre legacy. Garza says that he has been granted an official WrestleMania showcase match between Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, and Angel Garza teaming up to take on Gran Metalik, Lince Dorado, and Humberto Carrillo. So that is kind of what we're pushing here, as we're going to have a 6-man tag on one of the nights of WrestleMania. And so that is kind of what we're pushing here with Garza getting this WrestleMania Showcase match. And you can see Ray pretty excited about this. So a pretty fun 6-man tag that we're going to add to the WrestleMania card. So Ray pretty excited. Garza gets a nice match. And that is how things go here, as we've got another match added to the WrestleMania card. 63 for this one. All right. My goodness. I told you we got a lot of segments here with 8 people. The max that we can have. So we get to our second of the mini tag team tournament matches. We know the Street Profits have already advanced. Now, who is going to advance to face the Street Profits in the main event? We know the one heel team in this thing is out. The Adam Cole and Finn Balor, they're done. They're not in this tournament anymore. So we are going to get another babyface versus babyface match in addition to this one. So it's Cesaro and Sheamus taking on American Alpha, Chad Gable, and Jason Jordan. I told you, there's a lot going on in this show. I'm like stumbling over words and everything because there's so much happening here. But so what happens? Well, you should know how the Bullet Club are going to respond. They're pissed off because of what happened earlier, right? So they come out, they try to get involved in this match. But what happens? Once again, we haven't seen this a lot. The Bullet Club is thwarted here by the babyfaces as they try to get involved, to take out Gable and Jordan because they were a part of this thing. Meanwhile, as if Cesaro and Sheamus are going to stand for this because they were also part of the attack last week, and they've been on, the bad side of the Bullet Club for months now. So they are able to kind of fight them off. So all of these guys grouping together to fight off these three and to keep them out of the picture here. And so the match continues on, and we do sort of get a winner after they send the heels reeling again, which, again, we've not seen that a lot with the Bullet Club. Finally, sort of reeling a little bit as the babyfaces have turned the tide here. So this gets a 70, and that leads us into the match. And the winner to advance to the main event is Cesaro and Sheamus as they get the win over American Alpha in 10-17. Sheamus hits the bro kick on Chad Gable, and that is how we get our main event with Cesaro and Sheamus taking on the Street Profits. 77 for this one. So Jason Jordan considered the weak link. We still got a 61, so I don't really consider that much of a weak link. Good tag team chemistry with both of these teams, and that's what we're looking for. So good match here for this one, but it is set. Bullet Club has essentially been taken out of the picture here, even with everything that happened last week. The baby faces are, gritty baby faces we have here, sort of grinding it out, coming right back, knowing what's at stake, knowing the tag team titles are at stake perhaps. They weren't just going to sit back, miss this edition of Raw after getting attacked. A bunch of sort of valiant efforts here from these 6 men, but it's going to be 4 left. Cesaro and Sheamus, Street Profits, that's our main event. So now we get to another segment here as it is Liv Morgan. She's kind of in the middle of Ruby Riott and Toni Storm here, and we know what this is based on as last week it was our women's tag team champions. It was Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler suggesting that their next opponents not be Liv Morgan and Toni Storm again, but instead the Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott Squad team, who have not teamed up at all since Ruby Riott made her return at the Royal Rumble. And so Morgan is kind of standing between them, and she said, look, I understand, that a choice has to be made here. And she just said, I want that shot, Tony. I hope you understand. I need to beat Shayna Baszler and Sonya Deville. I know we came up short multiple times, but I can't get it out of my mind. I have to beat them at some point. And she just said, so we're going to accept the challenge from the champions. I'm going to team with Ruby, and we're going to accept their challenge for WrestleMania. So you can see Toni Storm here, I think almost understanding. You can kind of see it in her face. She knew this was coming. But she just says, okay, I understand. And she says, I've got my own business to take care of now. So Toni walks out. So it seemingly is official that Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott will team up again for the first time. The Riott Squad officially back in action as they are going to team up to challenge our women's tag team champions, Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler, at WrestleMania. So 51 overall for this segment. All right, now we get a special sit-down interview. It is Michael Cole with Becky Lynch. And remember, this is only the second time we've had a special sit-down interview with Michael Cole and Becky Lynch. The last time that interview happened was after the events of Night 2 of the Mae Young Classic, when we remember what happened there with Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch. So Cole points that out. He says, the last time we talked, you were coming off of a very, sort of very scary situation. And, he just kind of brings up, where are you at now? Because Ronda has brought it up a lot since she's returned, since she attacked you at the Royal Rumble. You never even entered the Royal Rumble. And so, what's your mindset now as you get ready for this match against Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania? And Becky just says, Michael, you're right. That was the last time we talked, and I kind of know what that could have meant for me. At that night at the Mae Young Classic, I never stop thinking about it. I think about it every single day. And Ronda has decided to come back and remind me of everything that happened that night at the Mae Young Classic. But she said what Ronda has also failed to realize is that she's reminded me of what happened several years ago that night at WrestleMania, whenever I beat her to become, the undisputed women's champion in the WWE. And she took that opportunity away from me to get that chance again. So I'm turning, that night of thinking every day about the Mae Young Classic and what happened to me that night. Instead, I'm now thinking about what I did that night at WrestleMania. And that is the only thing that's on my mind, because I'm going to do the same thing I did that night. I'm going to beat Ronda Rousey again. And that's kind of how we leave it here, with Becky saying she's going to use that as her motivation for beating Ronda Rousey. So 87 overall for the segment. And yes, again, WrestleMania card really shaping up now. I think you guys knew we were heading there, but that is, of course, another match that's official for WrestleMania. So, all right, now we get a match here as Kevin Owens gets the win over Shelton Benjamin. In this one, I don't think we've had a match between Owens and Benjamin either, and I was a little surprised by that, too. So, and I may be wrong on this. They all kind of run together at this point. But Owens gets the win over Benjamin. Pop-up powerbomb does it. 78, good match, not surprising. Owens is one of our better in-ring performers in the company at this point. And so Owens gets the win. What happens afterwards? Well, he then sees, Keith Lee sort of sitting there ringside, as Lee has made his way down, kind of wearing a hat here, so hasn't really been seen a whole lot. Of course, it's hard to miss Keith Lee if he's sitting there ringside, but so Lee is sitting ringside and he's holding up his Intercontinental Championship. So Lee just scouting Owens here, and that's another match we know that was set up last week as Kevin Owens made his claim for wanting that Intercontinental Championship, wanting gold back in his life, basically, and he has challenged Keith Lee for that title at WrestleMania. So 74 overall for this one. You can tell we're really moving forward with our WrestleMania storylines. It's just, you have to cram a lot in. So, all right, now we see Steve Austin back in his office, and here comes Toni Storm. Storm said a few minutes ago she had her own business to take care of. Well, we find out that business is telling Steve that, I realize I've been part of a tag team here on Raw, but I don't think that's my future anymore. And, Austin has a pretty good idea what she's talking about. And she says, so I want in the women's Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. And, just points out that she's kind of starting off in a new direction here. And Austin just says, Toni Storm, I think that's a good idea. I think you should be in the women's Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. So you're in. I'll talk to Mick Foley. We'll add you to the list. You're in the match. And so Toni Storm gets what she wants, and here comes Bayley. So Bayley walks in, and of course we know Bayley is part of that match as well. And Bayley just starts, running down Toni Storm, saying, what has she done to deserve a spot in this match, Steve? I'm a former champion. She's done nothing but lose every championship opportunity she's had. And so Bayley really running down Toni Storm here. And so Toni starts to get in Bayley's face. Austin steps in the middle of it, and he said, you know what? Given everything that's going on around here, I'm going to let you two do this the same way everybody else is doing it, apparently. You're going to finish this in the ring. So he said next week on Raw, Bayley, Toni Storm, go at it. So that's how we set up next week's match between these two Money in the Bank competitors for the women's match now at WrestleMania. So 73 overall for this one, and Bayley versus Toni Storm set for next week. All right. Now, though, as these two start to leave, so we see Toni Storm exit, and we start to see Bayley exit, and here comes Sasha Banks. And so Banks and Bayley, kind of have a little bit of a face-off here, and that is when Austin just says, Bayley, just go on. I'm tired of, dealing with this tonight. Just go on. And so Banks comes in, and then Austin's mood changes here because He said, you know what? I've been walking around having to deal with the Bullet Club attacking all these people, and then now you're one of these people who's out there attacking people with chairs and all this other stuff. I'm sick of it. He said, I'm tired of this. What has happened to you? Attacking Rhea Ripley last week with a chair. And Banks is just standing there kind of with a smirk on her face, and she's, sort of just denying Steve Austin here in terms of like he's trying to sort of talk down to her, but Banks just isn't having it. And she just said, you wanted to see me. What do you want to see me about? And that is when Austin tells him she's going to have a match coming up next. And he reveals that her opponent will be Candice LeRae. So there you go. So Banks just sort of defying Austin here, and Austin pissed off at Banks, seemingly being someone else that's just going around attacking people. There's attacks all over this show. So like I said, Raw is the chaos show for sure. So that is kind of your setup here just to get us to Sasha Banks versus Candice LeRae, 73 for this one. All right, and then in that match, I think you know what happens. It's Sasha getting the win over Candice, 7:05. The Banks statement does it, so it gets a 70 overall. The bigger story after the match, of course, as it is Sasha going to pull out the chair from that same corner of the ring. This dented chair, it finds its way everywhere, apparently. So she goes to pull out this chair, but here comes Rhea Ripley, and we can see Rhea sort of taped up a bit after that attack from Sasha last week with the chair. So Rhea comes in, makes the save. That sends Sasha reeling. So that is kind of how we move things forward here as Sasha trying to yet again, sort of continue this streak of hers, going after the chair to try to go after Candice, but Rhea Ripley makes the save. So 70 overall for this one, and we know we are on a collision course for Sasha Banks challenging Rhea Ripley for that championship at WrestleMania. So, all right, there's no time to even take a breath here on this show. All right, so Pat McAfee asks Edge. So we've got Pat McAfee with Edge and Christian. And, Christian seemingly much more happy now than he usually is. This gets an 86. Good segment, by the way. So he's asking, Edge, what about you guys attacking Daniel Bryan last week? We got attacks everywhere on this show. This is professional wrestling here. So he asks Edge, about Bryan and them attacking him, and Edge just says, before I say anything, I want to just say I appreciate Christian for what he's done. I know, there's been some frustration there with Christian and Randy, and Pat just kind of stops for a second and said, well, hey, don't say, what about Randy? Where is Randy? He wasn't here last week with you guys. Where is he? Of course, we saw him a couple weeks ago. He helped you beat AJ Styles. And Christian just stops Pat and says, Pat, shut up. We're not here to talk about Randy Orton. We're here to talk about Edge and let him speak. So Christian getting a little, irked here by the fact that Orton's name being brought up because we know what's been going on with those two. So Edge just says, all right, everyone just calm down. Jay, just calm down. It's okay. So Edge just saying, look, I've said from the start, for me, this is all about getting my championship back. Yes, I've had my frustrations with what's been going on with Christian and Orton and Randy, but, I understand what's happening here. I get it, and I probably should have smoothed this over a little bit before this came back into it, before I brought Christian back to team with us at Armageddon. But now we all know the goal is for me to get that championship back. And last week, the week before, those were two big steps. Randy, yes, he understood what he needed to do 2 weeks ago. Jay here knew what he needed to do last week to help me out, to get me to that point for holding up that championship again. And that's what it's all about, is holding up that championship. So that is kind of how we have it here. Christian and Edge, who, by the way, are going to team up next week on Raw. That's kind of what we're pushing here. So they're finished with the interview, but here comes Daniel Bryan. Because why else would we not have another attack here on Raw? Here comes Daniel Bryan, and guess who's got a chair now? It's Daniel Bryan, and he's swinging. There's no hesitation here from Bryan on this one. And he just starts swinging. He nails Christian. He nails Edge. And here come the officials. These officials are getting their steps in. I'll tell you that, because they're having to be all over the place with this chaos that's on Raw. So Bryan has a chair, and he's trying to he's taking out Christian and Edge. So they're down. There's still no Randy Orton, though. So remember that as we head towards next week. 86 for this segment. Bryan has taken out. It's the night of the Babyfaces. The Babyfaces are finally getting some revenge here on Raw. So there you go. on that one. Meanwhile, it is our main events. The winner heading to WrestleMania, and the winners are Cesaro and Sheamus. They get the win over the Street Profits here. They will officially challenge now the Lucha Bros for the Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. And Cesaro able to put the submission on Dawkins. And, you know, we're kind of playing this up as, look, all four of these, remember, they're part of those attacks last week. And it just got to the point to where Dawkins and Ford sort of had nothing left. And Sheamus and Cesaro just had a little bit more to put themselves in position to get this win. Good stuff here from really everyone from the in-ring standpoint. I mean, even Dawkins, we've talked about this. He's not bad in the ring in terms of in this mod here. 67 overall. So 75, good match. We'll take it. So it is the Bar reunited here as they're going to challenge the Lucha Bros for the Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. I feel like I've said at WrestleMania a lot on the show, but you can see how much we're really moving forward a lot of this just in this one particular show because we're only we got 2 Raws left after this one. So the Lucha Bros walk to the ring and we get the stare-off between the champs and the challengers. Meanwhile, it's worth noting, on the outside, we see the camera kind of cut. Dawkins is exhausted. You know, his face is kind of in the mat, but yet Montez Ford is just sitting up on the outside. We've seen this visual before as it's Ford on the outside. He's got his hands and he's just put them on top of his head and he's just looking in the ring. And we specifically see the camera cut in on those Tag Team Championships with Cesaro and Sheamus standing there opposite the Lucha Bros. So another championship opportunity perhaps has slipped through the fingers of Montez Ford. And that is something worth keeping in mind here as we wrap up this segment. 70 for this one. But are we done? No, we're not, because this is the Chaos Raw. And there's no way we're done yet, because afterwards, 99. So we almost got another 100 segment here on Raw. Afterwards, if you thought Daniel Bryan was done with Edge and Christian, he's not, because Bryan's got this chair, and my man is swinging. As he starts, we see him backstage, and we all of a sudden just hear this commotion. People are, you know, sending these officials running this other way. Again, these officials are just working overtime here on Raw. And all of a sudden, as Daniel Bryan has taken out, you know, Adam Cole, he's taken out Finn Balor, and now he's running wild, trying to get AJ Styles here with the chair, and he eventually takes all these guys out. So Bryan has sort of, you know, dissected these three and just really just caught them off guard, right? That's the only way to do it with a Bullet Club. So he caught all of them off guard, took them out with the chair, and that is when Bryan just says, "You didn't see any hesitation here, did you, AJ?" He said, "This WWE Championship, it's all I care about. I finally got it back in my hands. And if you think you're going to take this away from me at WrestleMania, if Edge thinks he's going to take this away from me at WrestleMania, it's not going to happen." And Bryan just throws the chair down and throws it right on top of AJ Styles as we wrap up this edition of Raw. And 99 for this one. Bryan also invented a new catchphrase that will boost his ability on the mic. So I have no idea what it is, but hey, that works out in our favor. So what a mad show. This was a hellacious show here. All hell broke loose all over the place. And so it gets an 85. And yeah, I mean, there were a lot of segments. This was a little bit of a longer show, I know, but I mean, we did pretty well in terms of a lot of green here and a lot of light blue. So this was kind of a show I thought that we had to tie all these pieces together. We had a lot of people just angry at each other, but yet, you know, the Babyfaces, the night of the Babyfaces. That is kind of how we have it here as they reign supreme as the Babyfaces get some revenge finally on the heels on this edition of Raw. So there you go. That's at 85 for this edition of Raw. Let's see what we get to before we wrap up. All right, so that was Raw. We get an awesome show. Good to know. Daniel Bryan catchphrase. Going to sell a hell of a lot of shirts. That's really all that matters. We only care about the merch. And so, yeah, I don't know. You guys can give me your comments below what you think of the catchphrase is for Daniel Bryan. We need to sell some merch here with him. CMLL mocking NXT. Remember, this has been going on forever. CMLL really hates NXT for some reason. So that's been something that's continued to do that there. So I told you guys not to, you know, get too excited. The AEW was going to re-sign Kenny Omega. They did. So he is not coming to WWE. If you want to see Kenny Omega, check out the AEW save. He has a lot going on with him in that save for us. So he's going to be there in that save. He's not going to come to WWE in this save. Show, should we sign Show? You let me know. So Kenny Omega did officially extend his deal. Andy Shepard's contract, I guess this is, so the announcer for NXT UK. We'll look at that. Morrison's contract's ending. We'll bring John Morrison back because we need him to put on some good matches. We're not really pushing him much, but it's fine. Xavier Woods has relocated to Hawaii. Wow. All right. Well, that's pretty cool. A lot of flights, but hey, good for Xavier Woods. He's headed to Hawaii. So I don't know. Maybe that's where Brock Lesnar is. Maybe he's decided to relocate there to track down Brock Lesnar. All right. So the drug test fees. Okay, usual drug test fees. Raw gets a 4.10. That's fine. Kushida got a divorce. I just want to let you guys know that. So, not happy for Kushida there. It's unfortunate. And let me just show you this. So, Daniel Bryan was loaned out to NXT UK. And let me just tell you what happened for Daniel Bryan as he got loaned out to NXT UK. He got beat multiple times in the promotion. So, our WWE champion was pinned by Levi Moore here twice. In NXT UK. He did get a couple of tag team wins, but he got pinned twice, apparently, on that show. So that's great to know that we loaned out our WWE champion, and he lost twice in NXT UK. So good for him. All right, anyways, like I said, that was Raw. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And it was a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more longer promos, but it's WrestleMania season, baby, and we got a lot to get to with only now 2 Raws away from WrestleMania and a jam-packed show. As you saw, we put a lot together on this one. A lot of matches added to the card. I'll do kind of a card update after SmackDown, perhaps, to kind of give you a better picture of where we're going to be standing on the WrestleMania card with only a couple weeks to go on that. But as always, be sure to subscribe and again, check out all the other series we got on the channel. AEW one is back. Check out the Exploring the Seaverse series, looking at all the Seaverse companies. And I am starting my new Seaverse save, which will launch here pretty soon, I believe. And another spoiler, I will be launching a new real-world save, a big what-if in the history of professional wrestling. We're going to play a mod based around that, and so that will be a lot of fun, I think. So appreciate you guys, as always, and on the next episode of our WWE 2022 Save, it will be SmackDown for Week 2 in March.